So today we've got Matt Murphy with us. Matt heads up accounting and business advisory here at Prime. He's been advising clients for over 30 years on how to improve their business, build their business. And today Matt's going to talk to us a little bit about 2020, at the start of the calendar year, time to make some plans. Let's talk about how we build our businesses and really make a difference. So welcome, Matt.
Thanks, Simon. It's great to be here. Great to talk about a topic that I love, which is all about improving businesses.
Fantastic. So Matt, 2020, start of the calendar year.
Yeah.
Just run me through what are the types of conversations that you're having with clients and what's the sort of engagement levels?
Yeah, it's really, I find this time of year great because we're halfway through the year, financial year, and so at the start of the year we're trying to predict the future. Okay, so we're planning for the year to say what are we going to achieve, what do we want to achieve, and typically over that Christmas break have a bit of a chance to sit and reflect and think about those sorts of things. And so your mind sort of wanders back to where you've been historically and to then work out where you want to go moving forward. So you've got some data, you may be on strategy or you may not necessarily be on strategy. It depends on sort of, how the year's fared out and how well you predict the future. But the one thing we're certain about is that change is the only certainty. And so we need to factor those sorts of things in when we're thinking about the planning. So when it comes to this time of year, it's a check-in. It really is to say, okay, how have we gone in the last 6 months? Are we on track for achieving what the results we want to achieve in the next 6 months? Mm-hmm. So it's largely, and some of it's going to be business as usual, and some of it's going to be, well, no, we actually have to make some dramatic changes if we're going to hit the targets and the outcomes that we really want to have at the end of the day. And our team are having conversations with clients about lots of various different things because when you have time to think over Christmas and over that break, you start to think, oh, what if I could, do this? And it could be a tax strategy, or it could be a financial strategy, or it might be I don't have enough data to be able to make some decisions. I'd like to, fine tune some of my financial results and that sort of thing. So it can be very sort of diverse, for want of a better word, in terms of really this time of year, because you have time to think. And when you have time to think, lots of questions come up. Yeah,
can be dangerous, can't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Matt.
No worries.
So, Matt, there's plenty of opportunities everyone can look at, particularly at this point of the year. But where do you see the greatest opportunity for clients in terms of improvement?
Well, I think it's, especially this time of year, like we were speaking about before, it's very much about being reflective. And the conversations that I have is around a bit of honesty, a bit of going to the room full of mirrors and have a good hard look at yourself sometimes, because when things get a bit hard, we typically shy away from them. Very cool. And so a lot of the conversations I'm having at the moment are very much around checking the data. Because the data tells the truth. The financial information tells the truth about an organisation. And so firstly, you've got to have the data. And secondly, if you do have the data, you should be looking at it, because that's the thing that will actually start to give an understanding of really at. And where you're really at is going to be, where are you serious about getting where you want to get to? So really at the moment I'm having these conversations, and they're the ones that are going to make the biggest difference. That's the areas to focus on for your business at this time of year.
So a bit of a assess, analyse, act.
Exactly right, and the act is the important bit. So it's about implementation. Okay, so a lot of what I practice and preach all the time is about having implementable plans as opposed to just a plan or a strategy, because that's where it falls down if it doesn't get executed upon.
That makes sense. So Matt, let's talk a little bit about the must-dos. You're probably having lots of conversations with businesses and business owners. In your mind, what's the really key must-do?
Well, there's one word at the moment that's on everyone's lips, and it's cash. And it is for a lot of business owners a lot of the time, because it's the lifeblood of a business. And so without cash, we can't do much at the end of the day. So especially this time of year, over a Christmas break, people don't pay us as promptly as what we would like them to. So our debtors start to blow out a little bit, and that can cause us some bit of pain. So checking the data, we've obviously put in place, or we should have put in place a bit of a plan around cash flow forecasting. Check in with that plan and see if you predicted where you are today is where you thought you were going to be, because that's going to help you determine what you need to do. And so if you're not where you thought you were going to be in terms of cash reserve in your organisation, what strategy are we going to put in place to do that? Because, without it, we can hit some pretty hard times and make life a lot difficult for us in our businesses. So that's fundamentally why everybody's feeling a little bit of it at the moment, and having these conversations around what are we doing about it to ensure that we've got enough runway to keep the business operating sustainably in a thriving way.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So Matt, we've talked a little bit about opportunities, things that we should be looking at, a bit of the must-dos, but let's talk about the other side of the equation, the risk. And in your mind, what are the greatest risks at the moment?
I think the greatest risk is the unknown. We're in such uncertain times at the moment in the world, and there's a lot of things that are happening now that have never happened before. Yeah. So I think the greatest risk for business is that unknown. So it's hard to plan for the unknown, but the reality is what we have to do is really focus on what could possibly occur in the future. And that could come from external factors like the economy, which you don't have a lot of control of at the end of the day. Or there could be things that are happening inside your organisation that you do have control over, and therefore assessing what could possibly occur from that perspective. So I think for me, the greatest risk is not thinking about risk.
Yeah, good point.
Okay, and so I get comfort around thinking about what the risks are and then how we'd solve for them. So therefore, you've heard about the old analogy having plan A, plan B, plan C and plan D, so to speak. It'll be plan F that probably is the thing that you actually have to deal with. But at least by thinking about these things as front of mind, you think about the positive, because you have to be optimistic in business. There's no doubt about that. But you also have to be a pessimist to a degree and be a realist to see, okay, what else could come from left field that I'm not really thinking about. Yeah,
so a bit of awareness as to what the risks might be, reviewing maybe what the plan was and what you thought was going to occur, and then just looking forward and say, has anything changed?
Correct. And so, going back to an earlier point, data doesn't lie, so check your data, because that can also help you plan and prepare for change.
So Matt, we've talked a lot now about some of the key principles, the planning, strategy, cash flow, all the really important things that kind of make up a business and its direction and its success. But if we were trying to summarise a little bit more, if there was a key takeaway or key message you wanted to leave with us today, what would that be?
To put it into just one thing is a difficult thing, because as we know, business is a very complex thing. And so it's all of those things we've been speaking about today. But one of the recurring themes that I speak often about is business owner fatigue. Okay, and business is a relentless pursuit. It's a difficult thing to do, and it can be quite stressful. So one of the biggest takeaways from my point of view is to start to think about your health. We talk about the health of the business in terms of cash and it being lifeblood, but what about the lifeblood of the business being the business owner? And from my point of view, it's making sure that you're looking after yourself, taking time out, connecting with the people around you, with your family, your friends, making sure that you're looking after yourself from a health and fitness point of view, because really the better you are as a leader in the organisation, the better the organisation is going to be. So the key takeaway is manage yourself as importantly as you're managing the business. And so that's probably my big key takeaway right now.
That makes complete sense. So Matt, there's been some amazing takeaways there. Some really good insights for me. I've learned, as I always do when we catch up. And I think what you've done well is you've given a really nice balance to the fact that the businesses need advice. Financial data drives a lot of the decision making. Getting the plan, the cash flow, the strategy right is imperative. But I think I really like the last piece that you brought into this conversation, which is the people behind the business. Very easy to forget when we're all sitting back and trying to be strategic and thoughtful about how to grow and create value, to forget about ourselves and the people around us. And so one of the things I really love that you're doing with a lot of clients is the mentoring piece with the business owners. I know you sit on a number of board of advisory panels, And it's great that we've got a team that can do more than just the financial, but help kind of interweave it all together.
No, well, as you know, I love it, and I get the privilege of playing in people's businesses all day, every day, and I'm really enjoying that part of it and helping people do that sort of stuff. So I'm glad that there was some value today.
Great, thanks a lot, Matt.
No worries.